As we were driven through the busy city streets, I could not see a single building that had been untouched by bombs. I watched in awe as we passed a husband and wife sipping tea at a kitchen table in a second-floor flat. Only the flat had no walls and no ceiling. Below them, the building was in rubble as well. I guess they were thankful they at least had a kitchen. Since I'd arrived at the camp, I had heard the American and British bombs going off non-stop. But listening to bombs in the distance was quite different from witnessing the damage close up. I knew we were in more danger here in the city, but I was exhilarated to see that the Nazis weren't doing so well. How I longed for the war to be over. Then I could find my sister and we could both go home. The driver maneuvered around fallen stonework from a bombed church, which sent us careening to one side. In the back of the truck, I tried to keep Xenia upright, but when I lost my balance, she landed painfully on my injured arm. I watched clean, well-fed men and women, wearing decent clothing, walking along on the sidewalks, stepping through bombed fragments of lumber, stone, and brick. Looking at them made me feel dirty and insignificant. None of them seemed to notice us at all. I guess they had gotten used to seeing truckloads of scrawny laborers passing by. The truck pulled up at the entrance of a large U-shaped building made of yellow brick. It seemed to have miraculously escaped most of the air raids, although an outbuilding was nothing more than fresh rubble of twisted metal and brick. The large arched windows of the main building had all shattered and were boarded up with wood. Shards of glass still hung from parts of the framework like jagged teeth. I suspected that the damage was just from the ground shaking rather than a direct bomb hit. "Oh no," said Xenia. "I was hoping to be assigned somewhere else." "This is the metalwork factory that was just bombed?" I asked. "I was working in there." She pointed to the flattened outbuilding. "What part of this factory would we be working in? How long would it stay standing?" I had heard that factory buildings were magnets for bombs. "It's safer than you think," Xenia said, reading the look of fear in my eyes. "The main building has been marked on the roof with a symbol for hospital, and it has largely escaped the bombing. I bet my building got hit by mistake." The policeman opened up the back of the truck. We got out, and he ushered the 6 of us through the front entrance. I was grateful to be in a dry place, but I wished to be back in the laundry. We stood in a reception area. To one side was a glassed-in office with a large double-sided desk. 2 healthy-looking blonde women faced each other, one pecking at a typewriter with 2 fingers, while the other tackled forms one by one, filling them out with a pen. Frau Zenger had one hand clasped around the knob of a battered wooden door that stood beside a larger door. She was having a heated conversation with a woman in a wraparound white smock. The woman's head was bowed respectfully, but her hands were clenched at her side. Frau Zenger stabbed one finger in our direction and said to her, "I don't care how much other work you need to do. You will train these workers now." Then she turned to us. "In there, all of you," she snapped. She opened the door and ushered the supervisor and us up the stairs and into a wire mesh second-floor catwalk. She didn't follow us. Down below, we could see the metalworks factory as the day shift came in and the night shift shuffled out. Although we were a flight above the machines, we were still enveloped in the mechanical thrumping, banging, clanging, and grinding. Even the wooden floors of the walkway vibrated. I looked down at one contraption that had a huge sledgehammer device on a swinging arm. I watched the laborer at that station place a piece of metal down on a flat tray. The mechanized sledgehammer slammed down, turning the metal piece into a shape of a small bowl. As the sledgehammer rose again, the worker swept the stamped bowl onto a conveyor belt and placed the next piece of metal in the same spot on the tray. It seemed to me that it would be easy to have a finger or a hand on the tray at the wrong time, yet the worker was using his bare hands. The force of that sledgehammer could send bits of metal into her face, even her eyes. I guess it didn't matter to the owners. The metal bowls traveled down the conveyor belt and were picked up by a woman operating machines with spinning stone wheels. As they smoothed and ground the sides of the metal bowls, they were enveloped in a cloud of dust. Xenia was in front of me, and we walked single file behind the supervisor. "Was that your job before?" I asked, pointing at the grinding machines. That's what I was doing, but in the outbuilding we were working with different shaped metal, she said. Other machines produced cylindrical pieces of metal, some as long as my arm. The laborers looked almost like machines themselves, except for their gaunt appearance and their exhaustion. When we had walked the length of the factory, we followed the German supervisor through another door and into a low-ceilinged white room. It had a wooden table with attached benches at one end and an open tiled area with a long metal trough for washing at the other. A small pail of bleaching powder was hooked onto one of the taps. There was a single flush toilet off to one side. "Put your eating utensils on the table," she said. "You will wash your arms and hands, carefully, and then I will inspect you." We did as we were told. I used the dreaded bleaching powder sparingly, but the water was gloriously hot. Xenia washed her scrapes gingerly with the stinging powder. Her left hand was slightly swollen, but she seemed to have good control over her fingers. I hoped that the supervisor would deem her useful. When we were finished, we lined up in a row, our hands dripping water as we stood at the edge of the tiled area. "Hold them out," she ordered. She inspected the palms of our hands first, then turned each one, examining our fingernails closely. "You pass, you pass, you pass." My hands were clean enough, so I stood to one side. Bibi was wearing a wedding ring. "This must come off," said the woman. The ring was loose on Bibi's finger, and I was surprised that she had managed to keep it for so long. "Madam Manager," she said, blinking back tears, "I have never removed this ring. It is all that I have left of my husband." "I don't want your ring," said the woman. "For your own protection. There can be no metal in the room you'll be working in. Leave the ring on the table with your eating utensils." "Might someone steal it just sitting there?" asked Bibi. "The other workers do not come into this area," said the woman. When she got to Xenia, she made a clicking noise with her tongue. "How do you expect to work with swollen fingers?" Xenia opened and closed the fingers on her left hand. "My hand works just fine," she said. The woman shook her head in disgust. "Why did they even send you to me? Couldn't they find anyone better than a half-cripple?" I am one of the bomb survivors, said Xenia. If you ask Foreman whoever, he will tell you what a good worker I am. Leach, whatever, did not survive the attack, said the supervisor. I'll give you a try. Her eyes landed on Xenia's neck. That cross, it's metal. Take it off. Xenia drew the leather strap over her neck and placed my precious cross on the table. The woman led us through the next door into another white room, this one empty, save for a table stacked with clean gray smocks. You will notice that these smocks have no metal snaps or clips and no dangling belts. They're washed daily and they wrap around you and tie in the back. It is important that they are worn snugly, but your laborer badges must still be visible. Do any of you have metal on your clothing? She examined each girl's dress, looking for snaps, zippers, or metal clips. But none of us had any. She gave us each a square of gray cloth. You wear this over your hair. She took out an extra one and said to Xenia, hold out your arm. Then expertly covered Xenia's injury. Where was it that we were working? We were in a factory, yet we were being prepared as if for a hospital. The supervisor checked her pockets and pulled out a pen with a metal tip and set it on the table. One last chance, she said. If you have any metal, take it off now. She looked at us with one eyebrow arched. None of us had anything else to give her. She ushered us into the next room.